In 2020, you got to know the name Justin Jefferson. But a lot of people were talking about this guy probably before you've ever heard of him. That's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to give you the rookie wide receivers that you need to be aware of for fantasy football on today's show.
That's right.
So no time to waste. Let's get straight to it.
Welcome to the Fantasyland Football Podcast.
Hello.
What up?
Whew, Badaki, it's great to see you today. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of February. I am Zach. That is Daniel Badaki. How do you say your full name?
Daniel Steve Cocu Badaki Contreras.
Yes, so I'm not even going to try. We are airing this podcast live on Clubhouse right now, Badaki.
Yeah.
Live on Clubhouse. How's it feel?
Yeah, live on Clubhouse. Look, it's a new experience. It's a bit different. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you currently see that we have, at least I have, two different color headphones on.
Same.
One is Clubhouse. The other one is me listening to Zach. So technically I'm listening to Zach because at the moment we just really have one person in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously need to get in the same room. We'll do that soon.
Yeah.
But hey, if you have Clubhouse, if you don't know what Clubhouse is just yet, it's an audio only based social media platform, and it's really, really fun to be on. Genuinely, it's fun to connect with people. It's great for networking. There's a lot of potential for this app, and the reason I know about this app is because Elon Musk invested tons and tons of money into it. So I thought to myself, well, that's probably going to be a successful app. So I researched it. We're now on the app. We're going to utilize this app, Clubhouse, throughout the season to kind of go live before, let's say, before Sundays and do start sits, update you on injuries, Q&As. We're going to be doing a lot of things through this Clubhouse app. So if you want to follow us on Clubhouse, it's easy. Just type in Fantasyland FB. You'll be able to find us and follow us. And we're pretty pumped to see what could come from this app. It's been actually genuinely really fun to use.
Yeah,
this app.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I love the app. You know, I was just in another room literally minutes before we started the podcast with a bunch of other guys that started are into fantasy football, and you know, just started a room to talk about fantasy football and just say, hey, like, we just want to start a conversation, which I thought was pretty awesome. And it's just a great way to network. If you're really into networking and understanding and want to get into different fields, this is a great app to do that.
Totally.
You know, like, this
and
is
it's super young.
amazing.
It's a super young app as well. You know, it will become more of a social platform, but right now it's so small that you can get to know people you might not ever have the chance to.
Yeah.
Anyway, would be fun to have you join us live. We will always have Q&As at the end of our podcasts. So listen in on Clubhouse. Feel free to stay for the Q&A after. Let's get to some need to know news right now.
What is going on here?
Okay, Russell Wilson is in Need to Know News again. Not a surprise. Look, as much as we are going to talk about this Need to Know News, I think it is worth saying that Russell Wilson is not going to go anywhere.
No.
Right? We're on the same page there? He's not leaving Seattle.
No, he's not leaving Seattle, but there are rumors that, you know, if there were to be any trade offers for Russell Wilson, teams believe that, you know, Seattle's asking for 3 first-round picks, which is, I mean, in my eyes, is that still even enough? You know?
Yeah, I know. And I think the thing that, you know, your average fan thinks, hey, well, why not? Russ wants out. Everyone can get out. Well, yes, but this would be not only awful for the Seahawks franchise because they're losing Russ, but also they would have to absorb so much of his contract that it just wouldn't make sense no matter how many picks it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's 10 first-round picks, let's talk. But it just doesn't seem like a situation that is going to happen, in my opinion. There's just less than 1% chance that takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. Your Washington football team could be on the move to, or there's talks and rumors that Curtis Samuel could be the guy that could be coming in to line up alongside Terry there, which is interesting.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm just scared. Let me explain. we have this thing that we do where we sign free agents to way more money than they are worth.
Right.
A la Landon Collins. Love him, but I'm sorry. Not worth the money we're paying him. Albert Hainsworth's a great example back in the day. We just love Josh Norman. Sorry, I'll keep going on and on if we need to. But we just love signing free agents to way too much money compared to what they're worth. And I like Curtis Samuel. However, I have seen us so many times in the past sign free agent wide receivers and it hasn't worked out. If we're going to sign someone, I don't want it to be Curtis Samuel unless it's for a really good discount.
Right.
But we'll see. He could help unlock the offense. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously we saw what he put up amazing numbers, or not amazing, surprising numbers in this past year.
Yeah, he had a nice little breakout, I'd say. I'd say it's appropriate to say that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think he can definitely be utilized in the right offense. The Jets and Sam Darnold, I mean, I would assume that the Jets will want to evaluate every single quarterback in the draft before they actually make a decision, and that's what it is here. You know, the Jets have made a statement saying that they're going to evaluate every single quarterback in the draft or every single free agent before they actually make a hard decision saying, you know what, Sam Darnold's our guy. So yeah, it's smart. Obviously, I think we all kind of thought that that's what the Jets were going to do, but it does kind of leave it open that Deshaun Watson still could go to the Jets.
He could go anywhere at this point except for the teams who have real quarterbacks and have no cap space. Those are the only teams that are off the table. But yeah, I think this is obvious. Why would the Jets not do this? I'm glad someone's reporting that, but come on, guys, that seems pretty obvious to me that they would do that with a brand new head coach. Last bit of news for us: Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, big parts of the Super Bowl run for the the Eagles, excuse me, but they're both probably going to be gone. They won't return to this team next year. All right, guys, there's going to be a lot of news circling around this offseason, as we've already seen trades, and we actually haven't even talked about the Carson Wentz trade. Benaki Carson Wentz is an Indianapolis Colt.
Bro,
I can't believe we almost forgot to talk about that.
It actually happened so long ago that
I
felt like we did in the last podcast. You're right. Carson Wentz got traded to the Indianapolis Colts. What was the picks for? Is a second round and a
conditional third that could turn into a first.
Correct. Depending on his playing time.
I think what's sad is if he does play and he doesn't perform, then obviously the Eagles won that trade. Right. But at the same time, I'm glad that he's going to go to the system he wants. There's just been tons of reports that he's just not got the mental makeup. What it takes in the league. And I think those reports specifically came out when Jalen Hurts was named the starter, because the day that Jalen Hurts was named the starter, his first day starting, Carson Wentz says, I want to trade. And that's obviously not what you want in the locker room.
Correct.
Right? So there is a little bit of just talk around the league of people who think, yeah, look, he's just not got that mental makeup. Anyway,
yeah,
he's on the Colts. I guess for fantasy purposes, let's quickly talk about that. Is that great for fantasy? Is that good for Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman? I don't know. I don't know if it's much better than Phillip Rivers.
I think that it is good. I think Carson Wentz is going to come in. Carson Wentz didn't have the best offensive line this past season, and PFF, the Colts have the highest rated offensive line according to PFF, which is really good. So if that continues,
when they're healthy,
yes.
But they were like 7th last year, but they had a couple issues. But you're right. No, it's a great offensive line.
Yeah. So if that continues, then Carson Wentz could come in, and that's the whole point. If he comes in and he's still bad with his offensive line, then okay, it's Carson Wentz, guys. Yeah. We all know this
for sure.
He's not the guy, but I'm interested to see.
Same. All right, guys. Well, obviously there is tons of things happening every day in the off season, and it's this next month that we're about to step into, March, April. Those months are going to be even more crazy. So the easiest way for you to keep up with all things fantasy football and the National Football League is to follow us on our socials. And the easiest way to find those is to go to one easy link, solo.to/fantasylandfootball. Again, that's solo.to/fantasylandfootball. facebook.com/fantasylandfootball. You can find Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can subscribe to our YouTube page and find ways to listen to the pod. Okay, we've got, obviously, as we've said, rookie wide receivers. We are talking about the upcoming 2021 NFL draft. Who are the impact wide receivers you need to know? Household names in a year from now. Let's talk about it.
I'm a firm believer. Where you go is more important than when.
Okay, we have 4 upcoming rookie wide receivers we are going to talk about on today's show. Mm-hmm. We have the top 4 for us, our top 4 list. We are going to do from our list from 5 to 8 in a separate podcast, but we wanted to start off with the best, right? And then kind of talk about those low-key guys who might come in and make a difference for an NFL franchise.
Correct.
First guy on the list is one Jamar Chase out of LSU. A lot of people, Badaki, have, I don't want to say recency bias, but they've forgotten about Jamar Chase.
Yeah. He got lost, and obviously he got lost because of the reasons of he opted out 2020 season. He decided to declare into the draft early and just not declare, but focus on to going into the draft for this year. But it's crazy to say that this was Justin Jefferson's other guy. That's who Jamar Chase is.
Well, that's who Justin Jefferson is. He was the other guy.
It's the other way around. You're right. It's the other way around. Justin Jefferson was the other guy, not Jamar Chase. Yeah, so
you're right though.
It's crazy
to say that, right?
Absolutely.
Because everyone knows the name Justin Jefferson right now. But a year ago, Jamar Chase was the biggest name maybe in college football wide receivers. And now Justin Jefferson, obviously, what a breakout year. But it's true. When this team in 2019 had what some people think was the best college offense ever. Mm-hmm. Some people think that. Jamar Chase was the wide receiver 1, and Justin Jefferson was the other guy to chase. Look, Jamar Chase, you can only do so much when you scout a guy, but it does help to know that he has faced the best competition that college football has to offer.
Yeah.
Being in the SEC, playing Auburn, Alabama, Clemson, in the national championship from the ACC, this guy has played the best of the best. And that kind of helps you give a little bit more confidence when you're drafting a guy. But let's talk about that 2019 season with Joey B.
Yeah. Look.
Obviously, Joey B finishes the season smoking a cigar, doing his thing. They won the national championship.
Right.
But Jamar Chase set a single season SEC record with 1,780 yards and 20 touchdowns.
Wow.
A lot of people are forgetting Jamar Chase. And I believe I can speak on behalf of both of us. He is our wide receiver 1 going into the draft.
Yeah, he is definitely my wide receiver 1. And, as we were scouting him, and obviously we saw him play a couple years ago now, but he is the best wide receiver in this draft, in my opinion. He's massive. Yeah. He's 6'1", 208 pounds. Obviously, hypothetically, he's going to put on another 10, 15 pounds in the NFL. I think that's kind of what happens unless they whatever team he goes to, they want him to lose weight. But I believe he puts on another...
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. In my opinion, he puts on another 10, 50 pounds, but he's massive. He's a big guy, 6'1". He's going to win that one-on-one balls. He has great body control, great hands. He goes up and he wins. He contests the catch. He has amazing speed and ability to create separation. Look, Jamar Chase, in my opinion, like we said multiple times, is the best wide receiver in this draft.
Yeah. And I think something that's overlooked a lot in his game is his football IQ. He has a great ability to extend plays, to see what the defense is doing, and to react live. And that's easy to see in tape if you're a wide receiver.
Right.
Oh, I probably should have done that. Oh, I probably should have done this. But when someone can live, while they're playing the game, react to a defense, that is special. He's got special IQ, great route running as well, ability to get off the line. I mean, pro comparisons from what we have seen, one name that really stood out was Roddy White. If you guys remember Roddy White from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Back when Matt Schaub really stepped in, or Matt Ryan. Matt Schaub was there as well.
I was
Shout out
say
to
Matt Schaub
University
was
of
definitely
Virginia.
there.
Yeah, shout out to the Cavaliers. I would like to say alma mater, but I am not smart enough to get into that school. Regardless, Roddy White is a great comparison. He has a very similar skills within his game. Some modern day comparisons, Badaki. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that, but you actually had one that I liked.
Yeah. Look, my guy is Chris Godwin. I see the way, I think they're both built really similar. I think Chris Godwin is 6 foot, and I think he's 220 pounds. I think he's a little bit heavier, or maybe 215 around there. But look, I see them in that same role. Obviously, Chris Godwin is that slot wide receiver, and Jamar Chase kind of was moved around a lot in LSU. But I think they both have great ability to go up and contest the catch. They're quick. They can stop on a dime. And that's what I see in Jamar Chase's Chris Godwin, which I think, he can come in and be a great, if you have a quote unquote Mike Evans next to Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. But the only thing I would like to say as well, people might be listening. This is the number 1 wide receiver in the draft. You're telling me he's a wide receiver 2 on a team? No, that's not what we're saying.
Right.
Just to be clear, we are not saying that, because to be honest, guys, Chris Godwin is a wide receiver 1. He just plays with another wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
So that being said, I definitely think Jamar Chase has the upside to be a wide receiver 1 in this league. Potential landing spots. Look, this guy's in mock drafts, he's landing all over the board. Mm-hmm. Some people have him as high as the Jets at number 2. Give Darnold another weapon, or a weapon, one weapon.
Right.
The Dolphins is probably the one that we like the most, I think. However, you also had him going to the Bengals at 5.
Yeah, I had him going to the Bengals at 5. I can just see him going. Excuse me. I can see him going back with his quarterback in Jody Burrow, and kind of just doing his thing, kind of having a great connection. And, I said Jody Burrow.
Shout out to Jody Burrow.
Yeah, I was like, wait, did I say Jody Burrow? We actually have a friend named Jordan Burrows.
That's one of our good friends we play fantasy with.
Yeah.
His name is Jody Burrow. But he is not an NFL quarterback, but he is a beautiful man. Mm-hmm. Yes, I like all the fits. I think Dolphins, and the reason a lot of people are upset with the Dolphins at 3 is because they have this stigma. Why wouldn't Devonta Smith go back with Tua? Why wouldn't Jamar Chase go with Joe Burrow? Guys, when you are drafting a wide receiver, first off, anytime you're drafting a wide receiver in the first round, it should be based off talent, not connections.
Right.
But specifically in the top 5, you better not draft someone just because they know the quarterback that's your franchise is attached to.
Right.
Because anything can happen, and you best believe people are not going to be focusing too much on that. It might be a factor. It might be a cool story. A couple others that we have heard of is the Eagles at 6. I'm not sure Jamar falls this far, but I think it makes sense, and it would fill a hole that the Eagles have within their offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I can see him going to the Eagles. Obviously, in Need to Know News, we said that Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Watson are no longer going to be there, so that means they need a weapon. Jalen Hurts only has Jalen Reagor, and who else, quote unquote, Zach Ertz is going to be leaving the Eagles or going to be traded, whatever the case may be. I believe that Jamar Chase could fit here. I don't personally see him getting outside of the top 7 to 8. If he falls that far, wow, I mean, every team in the top 6 needs him. Jacksonville, Jets, Miami, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Philly, and Detroit.
Except for Atlanta. I think Atlanta's probably the one exception.
The one, exactly.
So much talent.
I see him going to every single team, you're right, besides Atlanta. But if he falls outside the top 8, in a biased perspective, I really hope the Giants pick him up, but I doubt that. I highly doubt that.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and where he goes.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Next guy.
Number 2 for both of us, right? And number 2 is, we both have this guy at 2. Okay. Devonta Smith out of Alabama is our wide receiver 2 consensus. The list gets a little different around 4 and 5 and there, but right now we're on the same page. Wide receiver 2 for us is Devonta Smith out of Alabama. 6-foot wide receiver, only 175 pounds. And that is what most scouts are going to tell you is his weakness. He doesn't have a massive body. I've seen so many memes of these are the guys who won the national championship, and it's a photo of Devonta Smith and Mac Jones with his shirt off. Devonta Smith, the skinniest thing you've ever seen, and Mac Jones is just like a Mac truck, genuinely. But that is a quote-unquote weakness. But to be fair, with that small frame, he doesn't have a big injury history. No. And I think that's what you would normally find from a guy who's not as big. He still has a decent height at 6 foot. He could put on some muscle. But I think we have to look at the fact that this guy is just a baller. Yeah. Sometimes when you're scouting a player, you just say, look, this kid can ball. That's what we said about Javonte Williams on the last podcast when we talked about running backs. Look, Devonta Smith, as you guys know, this is a household name. He's an absolute baller. You saw him win a national championship and in one half put up 12 receptions, 215 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Devonta Smith won the Heisman. He's a household name. We could talk about his strengths and weaknesses, but I think most people know about this guy by now. It's probably not worth our time because most people know his name.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a lot of people know his name. And what's crazy, that stat, kind of want to go back, 12 for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in that national championship. Mind you, he got I think he broke a finger in that game or dislocated a finger and he couldn't go back into it. Imagine if he would have played the whole game. That's crazy. Okay, but excuse me, you're right. We all know his strength. Really quick, crazy quick, amazing talent. He's an insane athlete. But actually, I actually really don't even want to go through it again. He's good. He's good, right? Am I right? That's all I can say.
Let's go ahead and officially put that on our scouting report. Just everything we've just said. He's pretty good.
Yeah, you said it. It's true though. Like I was gonna reiterate you, and I just thought, what's the point? The kid's good.
Yeah. Look, he's a baller. That's enough. That's enough that we need to say. X Factor absolutely can contribute to a team straight away. Killer mentality, almost like Kobe. R.I.P. Kobe. Love you. Let's talk about some pro comparisons. The one name that we've seen thrown around and that makes the most sense to us is Marvin Harrison. And to be very clear, that is not to say that his floor is Marvin Harrison. Because his floor is being out of the league in 3 years. That's any pro's floor at this point. But his upside, what could he be? Marvin Harrison is a good, not great comparison. It's hard to compare this guy to current pros because he doesn't have a massive build. But let's say he gets a little bit more build. He develops his game. Marvin Harrison is a pretty decent comparison. Where do we see Devonta Smith landing in drafts? I think there's 3 teams in particular that we're pretty feeling safe and comfy with.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, all these mock drafts and all these, top guys on ESPN have him kind of going to 3 different places, and the top 3 are the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bengals. Jets at 2, Dolphins at 3, Bengals at 5, which I do see him going to all these teams. Obviously, if the Jets stay with Sam Darnold and they don't trade out, then they go with Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase. I mean, this is a great question for the Jets. Do you go with Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase? And I really want to know. I personally would go Jamar Chase, but I would love to get into the head of those scouts on these teams to really know who's the best. Obviously, you probably have to draft somebody that's going to help your team and impact your team now, which both of these guys can do. But I wonder who's going to be picked and why. But yeah, Jets at 2, Dolphins at 3. I find that interesting. Obviously, the whole talk with him going back with Tua would be a fairy tale story, just like Jamar Chase back with Burrow. And the Bengals. The Bengals at a 3rd pick.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know, Bengals make sense. And I want to be clear because when we posted a TikTok about this, everyone was saying, hey, they need offensive line help. We just want to make it very clear. Hey, we know that. We understand that. When you're picking in the top 5, we assume Penei Sewell's already off the board. So you have to pick based off talent. If Penei Sewell's on the board, absolutely the Bengals need to go for Penei Sewell. Otherwise, we expect them to trade back and get offensive line help and get some more picks. We don't know what will happen. But if they were to stay at 5 and Penei Sewell's off the board, you have to draft based off of talent in the top 10. And that's where this pick makes sense. Okay, moving on to our third wide receiver. Do we both have Jaylen Waddle at 3?
Yes, I definitely. Just let me just double check it. Yep, I have Jaylen Waddle at 3.
Okay, Jaylen Waddle obviously doesn't have the size of a wide receiver 1, 5'10", 182. But friendly reminder, okay, because as much as everyone knows Devonta Smith and it's a household name, won the Heisman, before Waddle was injured, he was the number 1 target on this Alabama team for a reason. That wasn't by mistake. He absolutely was an X factor for that team. And I don't want to overstep, but I genuinely think Waddle could have had the season Devonta Smith had. I think he is that talented. That being said, obviously he did get injured, so we can't talk on hypotheticals.
Right.
But Jaylen Waddle, before his injury, and these are some of his character traits, elite speed. When we say elite speed, he is like top 1% fast, like Henry Ruggs, Mecole Hardman, those guys fast. He's not got any weaknesses as far as his ability to outrun defenders and stretch the field.
Right. Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. He's extremely fast. He has great instinct. He has the great ability to catch the ball and to get those yards after the catch, which I think is amazing for a wide receiver. And it's crucial, especially if you're going to be needing somebody that's going to help your team right now. But I am interested to see where Waddle falls. Can I tell you a really big hypothetical?
Okay.
Is that as much as I believe that he is the number 3 receiver, I potentially see him falling in the draft.
Okay.
Significantly. I think there's a lot of people that see him going in, top 15. I can see him going end of the first, early second. Maybe that's not of a big of a, bold statement, but I see that happening purely due to his injury history. He's been hurt a lot. He has, and it's bad. It's bad for somebody like Jaylen Waddle in his position that's going to be running and getting hit a lot.
For sure. Well, I think we can agree he is a top talent. Where he lands is probably because of his injury history. We've seen a lot of people say he could fall to the Giants at 11, as high as the Lions at 7. We've seen probably the most popular spot is the Patriots at 15. I think the farther he falls, the better for him. And to be clear, obviously not money-wise, like he's not going to get as much money. But if he falls from 15 downwards, these are the teams he could land with. The Cardinals. Probably not going to the Raiders. Miami. Washington as the wide receiver 2 there. He could go to Indianapolis, Tennessee alongside AJ. Pittsburgh. Maybe they need to replace Juju. There's a lot of teams if he falls to. Even imagine he fell to Green Bay at 29.
Yeah.
He could automatically come in and be an absolute impact, both in the league and in fantasy. The only thing that we have seen about Jaylen Waddle from our own scouting is he does need to improve his route running. That is something that you will get picked apart in the NFL if your route running isn't on par with what it needs to be. Not a strong wide receiver either as far as his size, which could limit his role in an offense. He might only be a slot guy. I don't think he has the ability to go to the outside, unfortunately.
Yeah, I see him only being a slot guy. And, some pro comparisons, and it was pretty hard for me, I think for both of us to kind of compare this guy. The first person that came to mind, I see his build and I see how small he is, and I could be way off, but I'm seeing a Wes Welker size type guy, small, agile, kind of in the slot, maybe a Julian Edelman. I think Julian Edelman is a little bit bigger than him. But those were the first guys that kind of popped into my mind. Yeah. And like, once again, I could be a little bit off, but I kind of see him playing that type of role. Quick slot guy, you know. You need a first down, or you know, you need 3 yards. All right. Let Waddle run a slant really fast in the middle of the field, and then boom. Quick. That's what I'm seeing.
Potentially a better name is and it's just come to me. A potentially better name is Jamison Crowder, but that's a little bit disrespectful because I think he has a higher upside.
Right.
But he could play he could play a Jamison Crowder type role. He obviously has, like, Jamison Crowder doesn't have the speed he has, but that's the kind of role we could see him in an NFL offense contribute. You're right. Obviously, the speed is what's going to really help him separate from those guys. He has much higher upside than all the guys that would just name. It's harder to have a higher upside than Julian Edelman, to be fair, for his career. He's had an amazing career.
Yeah. And
I think I'm happy with him falling late for fantasy, to be honest. I don't know that it happens, but in that scenario, I'm happy from a fantasy football perspective.
Yeah, I think in a fantasy perspective, he could go into a fantasy relevant team or a fantasy relevant location where he can come in and be utilized immediately, and maybe you can pick him in the late rounds to kind of, you know, help you. You know, if you need a flex guy, maybe 1 week, he could be that guy. We don't know what's going to happen, but who knows? Rashod Bateman out of Minnesota is our next guy.
Yes, Rashod Bateman. All right, here's the deal with Rashod Bateman, and I don't want to overact with Rashod Bateman, obviously, because it's still early in the scouting process, and we don't know exactly where he's going to land. All these prospects, where they land is very important to their fantasy relevance. But I would like to throw out, as far as sleepers go, people that aren't really well known, I would like to compare Rashod Bateman to Justin Jefferson this year. Wow. Because one, I do think that the games are similar, but two, Justin Jefferson wasn't a name last year in drafts that people were super focused on as the number one guy in the draft. It was, who was it? It was Henry Ruggs. It was CeeDee Lamb. It was Jerry Jeudy. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, as of right now, is the best wide receiver from that class.
Correct.
Could different things happen? Yes. And that's how I'd like to compare Rashod Bateman in this year's class. He might not be the top 3 prospect that everyone's looking at, but I genuinely think he could have a Justin Jefferson type year if he was in the right offense.
Okay.
This guy, look, when you watch his tape, you will see the similarities even to Justin Jefferson in his game. But in 2019, because he didn't play the 2020 season, he opted out, kind of. It's funny. We see a lot of people who have opted out for the 2020 season, but then we go and research and we see them playing in 2020. He played 5 games in 2020, but we're going to mainly look for scouting purposes at his 2019 season. Put up 60 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he had 12.4 yards per target. Why is that important? That means you have been effective on your routes and you've been able to impact the game. When Bateman had a reception on first down for Minnesota moved the chain 88% of the time.
Sheesh.
That is the highest in the nation in 2019. That means every time Rashod Bateman got his hands on a ball on first down, they converted 88%. 88%. And if you want to see a guy like Justin Jefferson who has an ability to impact a team from day one, I like Rashod Bateman this year. I really like him. And I hope that people don't cover him too much because I'd like to snag him personally late in a lot of redraft leagues. Kind of where Ruggs was going last year.
Okay.
You know, those late 10, 11, 12 rounds. But I see him as crazy upside. He's 6'1", 210. He's got a really big body. And another comparison I want to throw out there, which I kind of noticed straight away, was Keenan Allen. I feel like his game really represents a Keenan Allen. The way he can separate from a cornerback and create space, and he might not be the fastest guy,
right,
but he's able to create space so well with his route running that he can find open space and impact a game that way. Other comparisons that we've seen, these aren't our comparisons. His ceiling is Julio Jones. This is from CBS.
Mm-hmm.
His floor is Marvin Jones. Excuse me.
That's a big jump. Clearly,
it's a very big jump. Shout out to CBS. when you watch this guy, and I would encourage you to watch his tape, because we're going to tell you how we feel about people, but it always helps for you to have your own opinions on players, obviously. Have your own feelings on players. But look, he's got crazy ball skills. He has the ability to win one-on-one contested catches. Smooth, savvy route runner, like I said. Great ability to get yards after the catch. And the one thing I noticed the most after watching his tape is his double moves are hot. This guy can leave people in the dust with double moves. Who else is great at that? Justin Jefferson. We saw it in the league this year. I know I'm a little bit high on him, and you're not as high as I am, but I genuinely think he can come into a team and make an impact. And maybe that's because he will go in the later first round to a better team than some of these other wide receivers.
Look, I like Bateman. Don't get me wrong, and everything that you have said here is credible. You know, we can see that he is and will be a asset to a team no matter where he goes. I believe somebody else has a little bit more of an upside, in my opinion. Obviously, we're not going to talk about him today, but
why don't you just say the name though, so people have a little teaser?
We sure?
Yeah.
My guy is Terrence Marshall out of LSU. Okay.
That's how you have at 4, wide receiver 4.
He's my wide receiver 4. Like I said, we're going to get into it a little bit more in the next podcast. But like I said, Rashod Bateman is a great guy. I see him coming in, being utilized in multiple teams. I think my downfall, in my opinion, for him is that he obviously, I think it goes for everyone. They have to go to the right team, okay? And I think if he does go to a team that has I guess you say an eligible quarterback, maybe a quarterback that can do a little bit of something, then maybe he'll be fantasy relevant. This is all fantasy purposes, not at him as a talent. Fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay?
I get it.
I think
we are a fantasy football podcast.
Yeah,
so
I think that it's going... The asterisk for me on Bateman is that the only way he is successful in fantasy, and it's going to be relevant in fantasy, is if he has one of these great quarterbacks. I don't think if he does go to a new team that, a younger quarterback team like a Jaylen Hurts, or maybe right now the Giants or the Patriots that don't have a quarterback, I believe that he will struggle, and he just like anyone else. Don't get me wrong, just like anyone else. But he will not be able to shine without the ability to have a great quarterback. And I know you have rebuttal for that.
I don't agree, but I think he's a very talented guy. I think we could be talking about him next year in a very high light. However, potential landing spots we have talked about. You like the Ravens. I'm not on board with this, but why do you like the Ravens?
Look, I like the Ravens
Bateman?
purely because of his height. He's 6'1", 210 pounds. I mean, I think he does have some speed to him. The yards after the catch is absolutely amazing. And I think he can go in and help Lamar. Obviously, we know that with Devin Duvernay and Hollywood Brown, they're a bit smaller. They need a bigger guy. We all know that. Obviously, Mark Andrews is quote unquote their bigger guy, but he's a tight end. Imagine if he was lined out on the outside. You can put Marquise in the slot, Devin Duvernay maybe on the other side, whatever the case may be. However they want to line it up. I like personally him going to the Ravens and being that bigger body there, that bigger body receiver that can be utilized quote unquote, like a Keenan Allen, like you said. Imagine if Keenan Allen was on the Ravens. That's Rashod Bateman.
That's his upside. I want to be clear. I'm not going to say he is Keenan Allen, but I think he has had upside. There's very similarities within their games, and I agree that could make a good impact. I get where you're coming from now. My favorite landing spot for him, I'm not sure that he falls this far, but my favorite landing spot for him is the Green Bay Packers. Allen Lazard is a free agent, restricted free agent, I believe. But if they were able to draft a guy like Rashod Bateman, I think he could very easily slip into the wide receiver 2 role there. He's got wide receiver 1 upside.
Right.
But if he was playing alongside a guy like Devonta Adams, that absolutely could open up the field for him. Green Bay Packers are at 29 in the first round. I'm not sure he falls that far. But there are some other people within the community that think he falls to the Jets, that he falls to the Lions. I think both are teams that make sense because they have such a need at the wide receiver position. The Lions obviously have 2 free agents in Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. Whether they bring them back or not, they will definitely need some more weapons for Jared Goff, maybe to revive his career. I don't know if that's the right word.
Right.
But my favorite spot is the Packers. Could you imagine Devonta Smith on the other side? Aaron Rodgers. I think this absolutely, if he falls to the Packers, could propel him into a 5th to 7th round pick within fantasy drafts, redrafts.
Yeah, I see it. I think my other team, and I think you would like this, is Washington. I know you probably hinted at it a little bit. Alongside Terry there and Heineke being the cornerback. So look, it's interesting. I think that he can come in, and another team that I like random really fast is the Cardinals. Yeah, quote unquote. I think Larry Fitzgerald is going to be retiring this year. If he does retire, they're going to need another receiver. Obviously, they have Andy Isabella, Christian Kirk, and obviously D Hop there. Rashod Bateman can be the other bigger guy. You know, I think that would be amazing with Kyler Murray and everyone there. But that's how I see it.
Yeah, I don't hate that thought. That is our 1 to 4. However, on the next podcast, we don't see eye to eye on all these players. I have Rashod Bateman as my wide receiver 4 rankings for rookie wide receivers this year. You obviously have Terrace Marshall. We will talk about Terrace Marshall Jr. on the next podcast. Not the next one, sorry, but next week.
Correct.
Where we break down the other rookie wide receivers from this class. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Again, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle, Rashod Bateman, all big names that you need to know. And I think we could say all 4 of these guys will have an impact on fantasy. They will. What that impact will be is yet to be determined, and it will also have a big part to play on what team they fall into. But all 4 of these guys will have a role to play in fantasy football, Badaki. You need to know these names.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question for you. These top 4 confirmed for you. Are they all going in the first round?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't see a scenario where Rashod Bateman falls out of the first, but I could be wrong. And another name we're going to talk about is Kadarius Toney, but some teams are higher on Kadarius Toney than they are on Waddle, than they are on Bateman. So we're going to talk about those guys on the next pod, but I do think they're all first rounders. Do you feel like they stay in that first, or do you think they slip out of that?
I think like I said earlier, Jaylen Waddle is probably the only guy I think that can possibly slip outside the first. I doubt it, but those injuries could be a real what's the word? A real, draw away for these teams. They're not going to want to take that chance for Jaylen Waddle, and they rather not have a guy that's extremely injury prone as a first round pick.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. We'll see how it pans out, obviously. But anything you want to say to the Fantasyland fam to close the show here?
Patreon.com/Fantasyland fam. Great way to support the show. We love what we're doing here. We cannot wait for the season to start. I don't even know how many days until the season. We need a countdown somewhere.
I know. Hopefully you love it too as well. Hopefully you love what we're doing as well. It's the easiest way to support the show. We say it all the time. Patreon.com/Fantasyland fam. We are about to revamp our Patreon for year 2. A lot more options, a lot of ways that we can hopefully help you win your leagues. That's what we are always trying to do. But have a great rest of your day. Great Tuesday. We will see you on the next show. See you there.
See you there.
Hey, yeah, you, the one listening to this podcast, you made a good decision today. Keep making those good decisions. You know what? Go ahead and do a little dance right now, like no one's watching. 'Cause you deserve it.